What's happening, guys? It's Glenn with DIY Creators, and today I'm going to be making a floating bookshelf. A lot of angles, a lot of cuts, and a whole lot of patience. So yeah, let's do it. This video is sponsored by VideoBlocks. Before I started this project, I wanted three things: modern, unique, and bold. This shelf was for a small area which I wanted it to be no longer than 48 inches. It had to be functional, beautiful, and after making a rough sketch, I was happy with what I saw. This project calls for a lot of angles, which could make it a bit difficult for a project to tackle. With no real planning, I guessed on the angle of 20 degrees and I started from there. I made my first cut at 30 inches for the trim using 1x3 pine. I lined up the two trim and made a mark. Then I set the miter gauge to 50 degrees for the second cut. After every cut, I set up the trim just to give me a visual that I was on the right path. And the next bend I need to make in the trim has to be parallel to the first cut. I used the aluminum tubing to carry out the line, took a piece of wood, placed it on the line and marked above it. And now I'm going to cut on the line, which is the next bend in the trim. And for the next cut, I just measured from the bottom of the trim, carry that out 18 inches, wherever that land, then that's where I cut. Then I cut off that piece of trim down on the miter saw, and while I was at it, I cut the two ends off for the shelf. Since the depth of the shelf is 10 inches, I made the trim 9.5 inches, and that sat behind the front trim. I also cut the plywood down to 9.5 inches as well. Now, making a frame can be tricky because it requires a lot of angles. Without an angle finder, I'd have a hard time making this happen. The angle of this piece is 110 degrees, and I need two pieces of plywood to meet up in the corner. And for me to find the angle of that, I divided the 110 in half, which put me at 55 degrees. I subtracted that from 90, which gave me the value of 35 degrees. Then I made my first cut. The corner of a square is 90 degrees, and that's where I got the 90 from. Now mark this piece of wood just past the bottom of the trim that's adjacent to it, and I used the same method to find all the other angles. So here's where it really started to get tricky. If you notice that this corner is very pointed, and that's a 50-degree angle at the very top. Now my table saw does not go to 50, it stops at 45, and the only way for me to make this cut was making a jig. I'm not sure what something like this is even called or if it even exists. I do plan to study it and make some improvement to it, and I'll share it with you guys in a later video. Being that it is on hinges makes it extremely flexible to pretty much set whatever angle you need to cut on the table saw. And I'm taking a piece of wood here and I'm attaching it to the bottom of it because this is how I'm going to support the swing of it, and then I just install a screw in the side and lock it in place. I also added another piece of wood on the opposite side so that I can clamp it onto the sled. Now using the angle finder, I can set the angle that I need and now screw the jig in place so that it's fixed. Then using a test piece to make sure that the angle is correct. The angle looks pretty good. Other than the frayed edges, I could take a sanding block and easily just clean that up and it should be good to go. I did went on to make the final cut on the workpiece. Now it was not perfect, I wish I got a better cut out of it, but the cut that I did get, it was workable and I was able to work around it and make it work just fine. And to get another visual of it before going to the nailing and the gluing process, I wanted to make sure that it all fits together just fine. And while I'm working on that in the background, I'm going to take a few seconds to tell you guys about VideoBlocks, who has the largest unlimited download library of stock video, motion background, and After Effects, just like the one you've seen in the beginning of the video. With the VideoBlock membership, you get access to over $10 million worth of content and over 2 million stock videos, After Effects, and motion background at your disposal. And at 40% off per clip compared to VideoBlock's competitors and over 100,000 free clips, VideoBlock takes 0% on commission on its sales, passing all the savings on to its members. During a 7-day free trial, you can download 140 pieces of content, and if you like the test drive, you can sign up for an annual plan, which is $149 a year to get unlimited access to their library. All membership come with a 100% royalty-free agreement. Even if you cancel your membership, the agreement is still valid for your downloaded content for your personal and commercial use forever. And to check them out, just click the link in the video description or go to videoblocks.com/YouTube. And as shown in the video, I'm using the wood glue and I'm using the nail gun. And for the nail gun, I started in the corners and worked my way out to the ends. Using 1x3 trim and 3/4 inch plywood, that gave me a slim space for my wall bracket, so I had to beef up the wall bracket the best I could so that I can believe in the strength of it. I cut the bracket to a 1-inch thickness. On the table saw, I set the stop block to 8 inches to make repetitive cuts for the arms on the bracket. I marked the location of the studs on the bracket, then placed 2 arms outside the stud and 2 arms inside the stud. Trace the arms about a 1/2 inch in on the back of the bracket. Now for this dado cut, I'm going to use my table saw, but you can use a few different methods: a circle saw, a table saw, a router, a hand chisel, or even a hand saw. There's many ways to get this done. When using a table saw, it's best to get the out edge first and then work your way to the inside. Now apply glue and insert the arms, and this should be pretty snug. If it's not, then insert some shim to make it tight. And remember, the plywood I'm using is 3/4 inch thick, and that alone is pretty heavy, so I added some L bracket on the side to make the arms even that much stronger. I only added the L bracket on one side of the arm, but if you're cautious, then you can also add them on both sides. And I use the same method for the remainder of the bracket. And to finish up the bracket, I added 1 3-inch screws from the back. Now one thing to point out, I did find the studs in the wall before I made the bracket. And to mount the bracket, I'm going to use 1/4 inch screws 3 inches long. Now as you can see, I marked all over the wall. Because the wall needs painting, I did not have to do all that. It just made my life a little easier so that I can get back and see the visual of what the shelf was going to be. In your case, you could use tape, or you can have somebody hold the shelf in place until you find the right spot for it. And I also made a small bracket to support the weight of the suspended end of the shelf. Now this should help support the weight, and one thing to note is that I can only fit this in one of the studs, so the other hole have to go right into the drywall. And of course you don't want to run a screw right into the drywall, so in my case I'm going to use some Hilti toggles, and they're pretty slick and they're extremely strong. And now for my least favorite part of woodworking, and that's sanding. And I'm gonna try something a little different because I am experimenting, trying to find ways to get better finish. And what I wanted to do this time was sand first and then come back in with the wood filler and then just did a light sand again to remove the excess. Now overall, I did see a bit of an improvement, but I think I can do better in my future projects. Now the story behind this bookshelf is this should be an accent piece for the desk that I do plan to build, and I went a little bold with the color, so it's just paint, and if it doesn't look the way I expected once both pieces done, then I can always repaint it. This is a paint and primer. I don't recall the color of it, the exact color, but it is a lime green and it's made by Valspar and it's a satin finish. So I really like this project and I love the way it came out. You know, I'm really excited. I can't wait to start building a desk that actually goes with this bookshelf. And you know, I never actually made a project of this magnitude that had so many angles on it and so many cuts. It was pretty sophisticated and I managed to pull it off. At one point I was wondering, what did I even get myself into? But actually, you know, you take your time. I did get through it and I'm really excited the way this one came out. So you guys, let me know what you think about this project down in the comments and let me know if this is something you want to see more style like this. So I'll be waiting on that. And also don't forget to hit the like button, the share button, and you can also catch me on social media. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram. You can catch up with my projects and see what I'm doing behind the scenes. So my links are down in the video description and I also have them on the screen as well. So you guys don't forget to catch me on those. And that's it for this one, guys. I will catch you guys on the next one. Peace.